A special thank you to Care Of for sponsoring today's video. With the majority of our holiday decorating done inside, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to now move outside. So I'm going to share with you guys all of the thrifting hacks that I like to use for outside spaces, and we're going to be doing it with 3 different design styles: modern, neutral, and rustic. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Kicking this video off with my front door that I wanted to be in a modern design aesthetic. And I first like to start by choosing the wreath. So you guys might remember, if you've been following this channel, when I found this garland here at the Goodwill bins for less than $1, and I simply just wrapped it around a Dollar Tree hoop ring to kind of mimic something I saw at the Hearth and Hand line at Target. Initially, I had used these more rustic, smaller bells for this wreath, but I ended up placing those bells on my fireplace mantle. And also I wanted the bells that I used to feel, again, really modern. So when I went to Home Goods, I was kind of looking for something that kind of was just dangling down, very dramatic, and I came across these ones, which were perfect. And then at the thrift store, I grabbed some thick black ribbon to tie a kind of, again, slouchy bow. And again, it's just going to enhance that overall modern aesthetic that I'm really trying to achieve. One of the decorative accents that I really loved in so many of the images that I was pulling from were all of these decorative spheres and orbs, but unfortunately I could not find any that I loved that were also in my price range. And one thing I've been seeing a lot on TikTok and Instagram is people using like inflatable like yoga balls and things like that to make these kind of oversized ornaments. And so when I went to the thrift store, I wasn't really paying attention to what the item was supposed to be used for or anything like that. I was just paying attention to the shape and that it was a solid thing. Some of the items that I came across were bowling balls, and you guys have seen me use bowling balls as a vase before. I also found a globe at the Goodwill bins for $1, a moon lamp, and this very interesting margarita pump dispenser. Now that I've collected and cleaned all of these very random sphere-shaped items, it's time to customize them. So obviously you can do whatever color you would like, but again, I'm trying to stick with that really modern aesthetic. So I went in with black first and then layered several different metallic spray paints that I had on hand. Once I was happy with how one side of these now ornament balls looked, I then just flipped it around and did the exact same process to the other side until they were all completely covered. Once those were dried and sealed, I then needed to figure out what I was going to use for the cap part. So when I went to the thrift store, I found these votive candle holders, and I was going to use just that bottom gold piece for the cap part of these now giant ornaments. But some of them were not coming off as easily as others, so I just decided to soak them all with some hot, soapy water, and then they were able to just kind of pop right off. And now it's just time to attach them. So I would not use hot glue here. I would either do super glue gel like I'm using here or E6000. I tried to just primarily stick to the rim of these metal caps so that way there wasn't going to be a lot of residue around the top of the ornament ball. And then for the hook part, I thought about using these ones from Hobby Lobby, but I remembered I had these in my stash and decided to just, again, attach those with some super glue gel. And this is how these modern ornament orbs turned out. I think they add that kind of luxe look to my space, but because I thrifted and DIY'd them, they were so budget friendly. And again, going back to my inspiration images, I love this little wooden stool here, and I recently DIY'd this stool that I found at the Goodwill bins, simply just sanded it down, and I call this the lazy girl staining. So basically just to neutralize it, I went in and just spray painted it with some taupe spray paint and then went over that with some antiquing wax just to kind of fill in those grainy areas and give it just a more updated look. So when I ordered this Hearth and Hand tree online, when it came, unfortunately, it was broken, but they gave me a full refund and then told me to keep it because it was damaged. So then now I had the challenge of finding a planter that was just slightly larger than the existing planter, just so the scale would still be appropriate. So I ended up finding this one at an antique mall, and I love the juxtaposition between this more kind of antique and vintage inspired look with all of these other really modern pieces. As I mentioned earlier, this video is sponsored by Care Of. If you don't know what Care Of is, it is a subscription service that ships high quality personalized vitamins, supplements, and powders right to your door every month. There are so many vitamins and supplements out there that it can be a little bit intimidating and overwhelming on exactly where to start. And Care Of's quiz takes all of that guesswork out for you by asking you questions about your diet, lifestyle, health goals, so you can get exactly what your body needs. So for me, for example, I live in Ohio, and especially right now during these cold and dark winter months, it can be a challenge for me to get the vitamin D that I know my body desperately needs. So I love when I'm on the go, this personalized pack has not only the vitamin D, but also all of the other vitamins and nutrients specific to me. Another thing that I love is that these packets from Care Of are so compact that they can fit in my pocket, in my purse, in my gym bag, so conveniently that I can take them with me on the go. So if you've been wondering what vitamins and supplements might be right for you, be sure to go take Care Of's quiz and see what they recommend for you. For up to 60% off of your first order, go to takecareof.com and enter code FIAFALL or visit my link in the description box below. And this is a limited time offer valid until November 30th, so be sure to get it while you can. Moving along now into a neutral design aesthetic for your front door. So you guys might remember, if you watched this video, I did my sister's front door area for the fall, and she asked me to come back and do it for Christmas. Again, starting off with the wreath, she really wanted to keep the olive wreath, so I told her we're just going to embellish it a little bit by adding some beautiful neutral satin ribbon to just make it feel a little bit more festive. With the wreath complete, now it's just time to fill the planters that I picked up for the fall season. My sister requested that she didn't want anything that she was gonna have to worry about watering or taking care of, so we have to go the faux route. So when I was at my local thrift shop, the Hartville thrift shop, I found 2 of these 4-foot trees that were just a little sad, and we're gonna see if we can make them look a little bit better using some different techniques. I ended up spending about $25 for both of the trees, and the first thing I like to do is steam them to clean them, and then I want to fluff them. Again, wear long sleeves and gloves and just start at the top and work your way down so you can really see what you're working with and how sparse your tree really is. To kind of get started, I had some white flat spray paint on hand, so I just gave both of the trees a couple coats of some white spray paint. To make the bristles and the flocking appear just a bit thicker, I decided to mix some spackling that I had on hand with a little bit of water. Adding the water just makes it a more paintable substance, and it's just going to, again, hide the fact that these branches actually look really fake, but adding that kind of texture will make them just look that much more realistic. With the spackling dried, now it's just time to fill in the big gaps. So I took some flocked picks as well as these frosted pine cones that I picked up from the Dollar General. Of course, you can go the route of ordering the flocked kit off of Amazon. It's usually about $25, but I wanted to be more resourceful than that and just use something that I already had at home and didn't have to spend any additional money. The next thing I wanted to do was just kind of draw the eyes up by framing out her doorway. So I saw this hack on TikTok where you can take a tension rod and attach it. You could do this inside as well, but I wanted to do it in this specific area just to, again, draw the eyes up. Taking some zip ties, I'm going to attach these garlands to the tension rod, and then I thought it would be so pretty and just like kind of whimsical and still neutral to add these icicles that I found at the Dollar General, just kind of sporadically around, just cascading down. The last thing I wanted to add, now I know these kind of decorative things are not for everybody, and honestly they're pretty expensive if you buy them from your typical big box stores. So when I came across these at my local thrift shop, they were $70 for the set, and then again I had 20% off, and I thought that they would go perfectly with my sister's kind of neutral aesthetic she has going on in her house. She has kind of this dead space where there's not a window, there's really nothing happening besides a brick wall, so I thought these would be perfect in front of there just to kind of illuminate that area and just make it feel beautiful and festive for the upcoming holiday season. And last but not least, we are going to tackle my mom's front porch area, and she requested a more traditional rustic approach. And this is basically how it looked before. She just had a simple doormat here, but I thought we could just spruce it up a little bit for the upcoming holiday season. So some of you may remember when I found both of these baskets that were brand new with tags at the Goodwill for under $15 for both of them. One thing that really helps me is to actually bring the planters or the baskets in the store so I can kind of visualize how something is going to look. Because my mom did request a real tree for the front, I wanted to make sure that the scale was appropriate for what I was going to be using it for. So for the smaller of the two baskets, I'm going to use this tree. But for the larger basket, I wanted to add that rusticity to her front porch. So I thought having some logs with maybe some pretty stems would be the perfect touch. But the logs that I had that were free, that were cut, were just a little bit too short for this basket. So to add some height, I'm just going to cut down one of those Dollar Tree hampers and place the logs on top of there so that way you can kind of see them sticking out a bit more. Once the basket was all the way filled, I wanted to add some of those traditional Christmas colors with the red and green. So I found these stems at my local thrift shop. I found 3 of them for $2 a piece and decided to add those in the basket as well. The other component I wanted to add was something that was seasonal appropriate that would be kind of slender but add some height. So when I found this sled, I thought it was perfect because just like the baskets, it had that kind of two-toned look. The only thing I didn't love was one of the tones was still just pulling a little bit too orange for my liking. So I tested a small area on the back of this sled just to make sure that it was going to look the way I thought it was going to look when I sanded it down, and sure enough it did. So I just decided to sand the entire thing down with first 120 grit sandpaper, and then I went in with 220 to finish it off and make it nice and smooth. Once we kind of styled it in her space, I feel like it's still missing something, so I want to hear from you guys. What would you add to this sled? We thought about using bells, we tried putting a wreath. We also thought about adding her numbers of her house on there. So what do you guys think we should add to this sled here? And to finish it off, you guys might remember when I found this lobster and rosemary wreath that she specifically requested for her front door because she felt like it looked the most realistic. I had that huge bag of cedar stems that I just filled in the gaps, and then I had found this kind of rustic bell at the Goodwill last year for $4, and I think it perfectly ties in with the theme that she is going with for this holiday season. And that really wraps it up for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments which hack or find was your favorite. And also too, don't forget to click the link in the description box below and use my code FIAFALL for up to 60% off of your order with care of. With all that said, I hope everyone has an amazing week. Bye for now.